You're listening to the Ed-Ucation series, and I'm Ed-Ucation. And today we have a special guest star.
My name is Seneca Hager.
Let's talk about your day-to-day a little bit. As a help desk manager, you've probably seen a lot, but my guess is that you've seen a lot change since you started versus now. What were some typical problems that you saw in IT, and how fast was IT moving when you first started?
Absolutely. I would say the biggest thing when I first started was mostly password resets and a lot of Microsoft 365 problems on the user side. I would say a lot of it was just Outlook crashing. It was a lot of, hey, I can't get into my account. How do I change my password? How do I sign in? It's Friday. I can't get in. It's almost 4 o'clock. I need to send this in before 5 o'clock. A lot of urgency with sending things and starting to get more associated with OneDrive and getting files there and sending those links. Where now we're mostly seeing a lot of different issues. Where Outlook, it's working great now, but we're also seeing a lot more networking issues. We're seeing a lot more infrastructure issues. I feel a lot of it has to do with cloud-based software and moving over to cloud servers and the transitionary periods between them.
Do me a small favor. I don't want to assume that everybody understands what infrastructure is. Take me into that definition for a minute. What's infrastructure?
Infrastructure is your servers. It's your framework. It's basically the mainframes of your network.
So the plumbing, so to speak.
Yes.
The plumbing that holds all the computers together.
Correct.
Okay, good.
It's making sure that the computer can connect to a server. They can talk to each other. Where does the server go to? Where it starts with you, and then it goes to your keyboard, to your computer, to your server, to your network, to your firewall, and out to the internet.
Sounds like a lot of places things can break.
Absolutely. The OSI model, when I am diagnosing a problem, is probably one of the biggest things that I have run into. And using that has helped me diagnose problems. There was one time where I was at a client site and there was a whole floor did not have any internet, could not get phones, could not get anything. And I was like, okay, what do I do to fix this? So I'm checking. I'm like, all right, I am checking the phone. I'm going to plug another phone into it. Same problem. So I went back to the switch and I looked at the switch and I plugged that same cable in that I was coming out of. And I'm like, okay, there's nothing here. So I made sure the switch was online. Checked to make sure the switch was online. It was good. I moved the port over and everything was back online. So using that OSI model has probably been the best thing that I have used to diagnose problems.
I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you all 7 layers because I know very few people outside of myself who can name all 7 layers, but I'm going to test you once this podcast is over.
Okay.
When you see things like you described, phone systems never used to be part of technology.
No.
They just used to be silver, copper POTS lines coming in, and they either worked or they didn't work, and you had the telephone company come out to fix your problem. Now, for most cases, voice over IP, you have your technology company coming out to fix your problem. Today, we have VoIP in our building, voice over IP. I personally don't have a phone on my desk anymore. I know you personally don't have a phone on your desk anymore. We're using even more integrated items. So when you see that kind of stuff, does that get harder for you to troubleshoot or easier for you to troubleshoot?
I would say almost a little bit easier because I'm checking more on the completely network side, not just the physical cabling.
Right.
So more software based. What can I do do I just need to restart the program? Is everybody having the same problem? And it also makes it a lot easier, not just in troubleshooting, but daily life as well. Because if I'm out and about, let's say I'm driving and somebody calls me, I can answer the phone right through my cell phone. So if a client says, hey, Seneca, I need this help right now, here's what I can do to help you when I'm not in the office. I can help anybody from virtually anywhere.
That's awesome. I'm going to throw out a little challenge to our podcast community on guessing how old I am based on a few statements I'm about to make. My first computer was a Wise 286 10 megahertz with a 10 meg hard drive. My first phone was a rotary phone with a long bungee cord. And then your first computer was what?
Oh, man. I think for me, it was I would say it's a Windows XP computer. I'm not sure the make and model, but that was my first one.
Okay, so she's saying Windows XP, which is a Windows operating system. I took my first 286 computer and was DOS 4.0, 4.1, 5.0, 5.1, 6.0, and 6.1. Then we got into the first level of Windows. Then we got into Windows 2.0, 3.0, Windows 95, 98, Millennium, XP, and so on and so on. So anybody that wants to listen to this podcast and take a shot at my age, I'll send you a gift card to Starbucks or your favorite coffee place, and just all you got to do is hit me up and say, Ed, I listened to the podcast and I think you're blank years old. You're not going to insult me, but I'm way older than Seneca. I won't tell you when I got my first job, but you can tell based on when my first computer was.
And just to give you guys a hint, I would say my dad's probably really close to Ed's age, if that gives anybody any inclinations.
That's unfair. And by the way, you're not allowed to guess. Okay, so as we're seeing some of these trends in technology, we're seeing where rotary phones got replaced with digital phones, and digital phones got replaced with voice over IP phones, and voice over IP phones are going away, and people are now using the headsets that are tied to their computer. And we see 486s became Pentiums, Pentiums became Xeons, Xeons became, i5s, i7s, i9s. We see all these other processors come out that are, Ryzen and other manufacturers. We've got Mac making their own processors. The computer's evolved quite a bit, but maybe next is, and I'm no conspiracy theorist and I'm not into iRobot, but I think at some point your phone may have the opportunity to be embedded somewhere on you. And not that I would say that pulling my ear would allow me to answer a second call, but I can imagine something along those lines will be the next evolution. There's going to be technology that we haven't even considered or conceived of over the next few years, based on how far we've come in the last 5 years, that it's just going to be mind-blowing. And as an MSP, we have to be prepared for whatever you work on. Hi, and thanks for tuning in this week to the Ed-Ucation Podcast with myself, Ed, and my special guest star,
Seneca Hager.